Hello everyone, I'm so happy to see you again on my channel. Today, I bring you a very special episode about Ly Hoai Ca and Officer Hùng. In this episode, unexpected twists, suspense, and intense drama will unfold, promising to keep your heart racing every second. Love, faith, and cruel challenges will come one after another. Will Hoai Ca, the resilient woman carrying Hùng child, have the strength to endure? And Hùng, a brave police officer, torn between dangerous duty and family love, what choice will he make? Stay tuned until the end of the video to fully experience this emotional story. After the wedding was left unfinished by the violent storm, the small house returned to its usual silence. Hoai Ca sat quietly on the bed, her hand resting on her belly, where a tiny life was growing day by day. Just over 3 months into her pregnancy, her body already felt heavy, her mind burdened with countless worries. The image of Hùng and his comrades wading through the raging floodwaters remained vivid in her memory, keeping her heart from ever finding peace. That afternoon, Mother Ha packed her things and moved in to take care of her daughter and grandchild. She comforted Hoai Ca, but in her eyes glimmered a worry she could not conceal. Tony, still too young to understand, ran playfully around the room, bringing a little warmth to the quiet house. As night fell, cold wind whistled through the cracks of the doors, and light drizzle still drifted across the porch. The family had only just drifted into sleep when suddenly the dog in the yard howled repeatedly. Its growling and furious barking pierced the silence, echoing through the night as if warning of a strange presence. Startled, Hoai Ca sat upright, her heart pounding wildly. She quickly pulled sleepy Tony into her arms. Eyes wide in the darkness, she strained to catch every sound outside the porch. A chill crept down her spine, leaving her breathless. The pale moonlight filtered through the leaves, casting shadows across the rain-soaked yard. For a fleeting moment, Hoai Ca glimpsed a tall, thin figure standing by the gate. The shadow wavered as if lurking, watching. In the blink of an eye, it vanished, leaving behind nothing but emptiness and cold. Mother Ha woke as well, startled. She quickly reached for an old flashlight, her hand trembling as she switched it on. The beam swept across the yard, shining straight toward the gate. But no one was there, only puddles glimmering with reflections. The wind rustled through the banana grove, the swaying leaves adding to the eerie atmosphere. The dog kept growling, eyes glowing red, fixed on the dark corner near the wooden gate. Its body crouched low, fur bristling, throat rumbling with a deep, menacing snarl as though facing an invisible enemy. Clutching her son tighter, Hoai Ca whispered with a trembling voice. "Could someone be watching us out there?" Mother Ha stayed silent. Her eyes revealed deep fear, her fingers gripping the flashlight so tightly they turned white. The air inside the small house grew thick, suffocating with tension. The three of them, an elderly woman, a young child, and a pregnant mother, huddled together in the dim light, hearts racing. That heavy, stifling night seemed to foretell another storm, just as merciless, about to descend upon this fragile little family. At the military camp, after many days battling the floods, Hùng and his comrades received a new order: evacuate the villagers from the mountain area at risk of landslides. The ground had already cracked after days of heavy rain, just one more downpour, and the entire slope could collapse. Hùng tightened the straps of his backpack, his sunburned face marked with tension. He knew this mission was just as dangerous as the floods they had just endured. The people were relying on them, and he could not back down. During a rare break, Hùng sat on the wooden steps, pulling an old, worn-out phone from his pocket. The signal flickered weakly, but suddenly the screen lit up. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Your family is in danger. Come home quickly." Hung's eyes widened, an icy chill running down his spine. His heart clenched, pounding wildly. In an instant, images flooded his mind. Hoai Ca with her fragile pregnancy, little Tony who had yet to speak, and gray-haired mother Ha weighed down with worry. His 3 dearest loved ones, far away in their remote home, facing threats he could not foresee. He shot to his feet, gripping the phone with trembling hands. His chest tightened, his whole body restless, aching to rush home. Yet the evacuation mission still loomed. Hundreds of lives were at stake on the unstable mountainside. Behind him was his small family, trembling in the shadows. Hùng tilted his face to the sky, eyes burning red. He whispered hoarsely, "Hoai Ca, stay strong. Tony, my son, please let nothing happen to you." As the sharp whistle for assembly pierced the air, Hùng grasped the rifle slung over his shoulder and marched quickly toward his comrades. His face bore the torment of a man torn apart, but in his eyes burned unyielding resolve. No matter the fear gnawing inside, he had to carry out his duty. Was the storm raging inside Hùng fiercer than the one raging outside? The next morning, faint rays of sunlight slipped through the cracks in the curtains, glimmering on the raindrops still clinging after the night storm. The air inside the small wooden house carried a damp scent, mingled with the warmth of smoke rising from the kitchen. Hoai Ca crouched by the fire, her slender hands swiftly stirring a pot of plain porridge. Beads of sweat dotted her forehead, yet her lips curved into a gentle smile at the babbling sounds of her little boy. On the old wooden table, a steaming bowl of porridge and a fragrant cup of milk were already prepared. Tony sat snugly in his tiny chair, his hair tousled from sleep, wide round eyes following his mother's every move. He babbled a few clumsy sounds, his small hands pounding the table as if urging, "Mommy, hurry up." The sight softened Hoai Ca's heart. Amidst all the worries, her child's innocence remained the greatest source of strength for her to keep going. Mother Ha stepped out from the back kitchen, holding a kettle of boiling water, steam rising thickly. She poured it into the old teapot, then sat down beside her daughter, speaking gently in reassurance. "Don't worry too much. Last night was probably just someone passing by, playing a trick. In this area, there are often strangers who lose their way in the dark." Her voice was soothing, yet her eyes still flickered with unease. She knew her daughter was pregnant, her emotions fragile, so she chose her words carefully to calm her. Hoai Ca stayed silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. But worry still lingered in her gaze. The shadowy figure by the gate last night haunted her mind like an unfinished nightmare. She placed a hand on her belly, where the little life stirred within, silently wondering, was it truly nothing, or did it hide something more dangerous? Outside, the dog barked a few short, sharp times, then suddenly went quiet. The sound made the atmosphere even heavier. In the distance, a rooster crowed, and the calls of market vendors drifted from the muddy road after the storm. The scene seemed peaceful, yet deep within Hoai Ca's heart, a dark premonition stirred, as if the real storm was still far from over. That afternoon, after a long relentless rain, the sky was still gray, with a few heavy drops falling here and there. The yard in front of Hoai Ca's house was muddy, puddles shimmering with reflections of clouds. From afar came the lively shouts of children calling each other, but inside the small wooden house, the air was heavy with silence. Du's older sister entered, her steps hurried. On her shoulder hung a faded cloth bag, her plastic sandals still caked with mud. As soon as she crossed the threshold, her eyes started around, scanning every corner of the yard, every bush near the gate. It seemed she too sensed something was not right. Hoai Ca forced a smile and quickly poured a cup of hot tea, setting it in front of her guest. The steam curled upward with a gentle fragrance, but no one felt at ease. Before any pleasantries could be exchanged, Du's sister lowered her voice, weighted with worry. Lately, there have been some strange men around the village. They go from house to house asking about Hung, and even mentioning the debts he hasn't paid off. Her words fell like a heavy stone striking still water. The small house instantly grew quiet, broken only by the sound of wind seeping through the cracks in the door. Mother Ha startled, her frail hands trembling as she froze in the middle of sorting vegetables. She lifted her gaze to her daughter, eyes flashing with panic she tried to conceal. Tony remained carefree, crawling on the floor, hands fumbling with a wooden toy car, unaware of the tension thickening around him. Hoai Ca was stunned. The hand holding her teacup halted midair. The hot tea rippled, a few drops spilling onto the table, but she paid no mind. Her lips pressed tight until they bled, her face paling. Her heart pounded furiously, each beat threatening to burst free. Du's sister leaned closer, her voice even lower, as if afraid someone outside might overhear. Could it be they plan to take advantage of Hung's absence to pressure you? You're pregnant, with a little child to care for. Better to stay cautious. These days, evil men aren't hard to find. Her words cut deep, like a blade into Hoai Ca's heart. Unconsciously, her trembling hand pressed against her belly, where the tiny life inside was forming day by day. A slow-burning fear seeped into her, choking her voice. In the kitchen, the kettle whistled sharply as water boiled, but no one moved. The thick steam rose, mingling with the tense air of the room, making the atmosphere stifling. From the yard came a sudden bark from the dog, short, sharp, then abruptly cut off. The wind whistled through the bamboo grove behind the house, and the steady hum of insects filled the garden. All these sounds pressed together, painting a background heavy with unease. Slowly, Hoai Ca lifted her gaze toward the damp yard outside. She swallowed hard, trembling inwardly as a question echoed in her mind. Could the shadow I saw last night have been them? No one answered. Only heavy silence remained, thick and suffocating, like a warning that yet another storm was about to crash down on this fragile family. Late in the afternoon, the sky still held streaks of fading sunlight slipping through the rain-soaked bamboo grove after the storm. The air was damp, a thin mist rising from the valley and spreading over the muddy dirt road leading to Hoai Ca's house. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared before the rustic wooden gate. Du, dressed in a faded black t-shirt, held a carefully wrapped box in his hands. He stood there for a moment, as if hesitating, before gently knocking. Hoai Ca, sweeping the yard, flinched at the sound. Recognizing Du, she frowned slightly but opened the gate. You, at this hour? Her voice carried a trace of surprise. Du forced a faint smile and held out the box. I brought this for you. A new phone. So you can stay in touch, in case something happens. Hoai Ca's eyes dimmed. She hesitated, then invited him inside. In the small room, the oil lamp cast a wavering glow across the wooden table, filling the space with a light that was both warm and somber. Tony, spotting Du, lit up with delight. His eyes sparkled as he babbled, waving his tiny hands. The little boy crawled over, clutching at Du's pant leg. Du bent down, gently stroking the child's hair, a soft smile tugging at his lips, a smile filled with tenderness, but quickly shadowed by emotions he struggled to contain. When he looked up, his expression had turned uncharacteristically grave. The air thickened. Sitting across from Hoai Ca, Du clenched his hands together and spoke slowly, heavily. Hoai Ca, there's a truth I've carried inside me for years. Today, I can't stay silent any longer. Tony is my son. The words fell like a thunderclap, shattering the fragile calm. Hoai Ca froze, lips trembling, the bowl of porridge in her hands nearly slipping to the floor. From the corner of the table, Mother Ha gasped, eyes wide in shock, her frail hands clutching her blouse. The silence was absolute, broken only by the frantic pounding of Hoai Ca's heart. Du drew a deep breath, his voice hoarse as he went on. But don't worry. I won't intrude on your life with Hung. I don't want to break the family you've built. I only ask one thing. Let me stay quietly by your side to protect you and the child, especially now, when danger is near. Outside, the wind whistled through the leaves, making the wooden gate creak like a lament. The pale moon flickered, casting the shadow of a lurking figure in the garden. His eyes glinted coldly, watching the house through the foliage, like a predator waiting patiently for its prey. Inside, Hoai Ca clutched her pregnant belly, fingers trembling. Her vision blurred, drowning in fear and confusion. Du's confession cut like a blade, yet also trapped her like a net with no escape. Mother Ha stared fixedly at Du, but said nothing. Stunned, she sat rigid, as if turned to stone. The small room grew suffocating. The oil lamp flickered, their shadows stretching across the wooden wall long, distorted silent witnesses to a secret newly unveiled. And in her heart, Hoai Ca asked herself, if this truth ever comes to light, what will become of my little family? While the air inside the house was still thick with the weight of Du's shocking confession, suddenly, bang, 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 a furious pounding rattled the wooden door, as if it might burst open any second. All three froze in terror. Tony screamed, burying his face in his mother's chest. Hoai Ca clutched him tightly, her heart racing, tears brimming in her eyes. Before anyone could react, the door slammed open with a deafening crash. A group of rough-looking strangers stormed in, their faces hard, their presence menacing. The man at the front barked loudly, his voice dripping with threat. Hung still owes us a huge debt. He's gone now, so his wife and kid will pay in his place. Hand over the money, or don't blame us for what happens. The atmosphere turned suffocating with dread. Hoai Ca held Tony even closer, her hands trembling, tears spilling down as her son wailed in confusion, too young to understand, yet sensing the danger looming over them. Mother Ha, pale and shaking, forced herself to step forward. Though her legs trembled, she spread her arms wide across the doorway, her voice quivering but firm. You will not lay a hand on my daughter and grandson. Her words were met with mocking laughter. One of the thugs sneered, pointing directly at Hoai Ca's swollen belly. That woman's pregnant. If the debt isn't paid, don't think we'll let her off easy. Hoai Ca gasped, instinctively shielding her belly, her tear-filled eyes wide with terror. She nearly collapsed, but still held her son tightly to her chest. At that moment, Du slowly stepped forward, placing himself firmly between the mother and child and the intruders. His gaze turned icy, sharp enough to pierce through the darkness. His voice thundered, deep and resolute. If you want to touch them, you'll have to get through me first. The entire room fell into tense silence. The gang hesitated, glancing at one another, then back at Du, their swagger faltering under the force of his unyielding stare. They hadn't expected such a chilling, determined defiance. The flickering oil lamp cast twisted shadows across the wooden walls, the silhouettes of the intruders and the tall, unwavering stance of Du, stretching long and distorted like specters. Inside that small house, the battle between family and violence was about to erupt. Inside the small house, the air had thickened, as if waiting for a single spark to set it all ablaze. The strangers glared and took a step forward, growling. Move aside, you. Don't think you can stop us. A tall man with fierce tattoos suddenly lunged, attempting to wrench Hoai Ca from her seat. Tony screamed in terror, burying his face against his mother's shoulder. In an instant, Du spun around and with a strong, sure-handed motion shoved the man's arm away, sending him stumbling backward. The sharp sound echoed through the room, freezing everyone. The tension was so acute you could hear every pounding heartbeat. Diep planted himself in front of Hoai Ca, his eyes cold and cutting. His voice was low, resolute. "I said it already. If you want to touch them, you'll have to step over my body first." The intruders hesitated. Glances exchanged were equal parts anger and caution. Amid the chaos, Hoai Ca broke down, clutching Tony to her chest as she sobbed. "Please stop. I'm pregnant. I beg you. Don't make trouble." Her plea shattered the room's tension. The strangers exchanged looks, then sneered. The leader spat a warning, voice menacing. Fine, we'll spare the woman and child today. But remember, this isn't over. We'll be back to take what's ours." With that, they swaggered out, heavy footsteps thudding across the wet yard. The dog howled long and low from its corner, making the night feel even colder. Inside, Mother Ha leaned against the wall, trembling and pale. Hoai Ca clutched her belly, eyes blurred with tears, her whole body shaking. Tony hiccuped in his mother's arms. Only Diep remained standing, tall and motionless in the middle of the room, his face clouded, hands clenched as if ready for a fight yet to come. A silent vow rose in him. No matter what, he would not let Hoai Ca and her child suffer harm again. Night fell, and in the small house only the flickering oil lamp remained, casting wavering shadows across the wooden walls. The damp air after the rain made the room feel even heavier. Hoai Ca sat by the bed, holding Tony tightly in her arms. The boy had drifted into sleep, his breathing steady, yet his eyes were still swollen with traces of tears. Watching her child sleep so innocently tore at the mother's heart. Hot tears slid down Hoai Ca's cheeks, falling onto her son's soft hair. Mother Ha sat close beside her, her frail hand gripping her daughter's tightly. Her voice was low and sorrowful, but firm, as if trying to pass on her strength. "My child, as long as we live, there is still hope. You must stay strong, not only for yourself, but for the baby inside you, for Tony, and for Hung as well. If you collapse now, who will care for them?" Hoai Ca bit her lip and nodded through sobs. The fear remained, but her mother's words were like a small flame, warming her trembling heart. Meanwhile, Diep quietly stepped out onto the porch. His shadow stretched long across the damp ground, the night wind tugging at his shirt. He pulled his phone from his pocket, fingers gripping so hard they turned white, before dialing a number. His voice came out low, heavy with restrained fury. "Let me deal with them. I swear. I will not let Hoai Ca or the child suffer any harm again." On the other end, there was only a faint breath, then the line went dead. The night swallowed Diep's solitary figure, cloaked in silence. But the story does not end here. Storms, secrets, and dangers still lie ahead. Will Hoai Ca's fragile happiness withstand the coming trials? Stay tuned for the next episode to find out.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người phần tiếp theo về video của mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca mọi người. Hiện tại thì mình vẫn đang trong quá trình thực hiện video đây mọi người. Mình muốn di chuyển con chuột cho mọi người xem này. Hiện tại thì mình vẫn đang trong quá trình dựng video và mình đang cố gắng là hoàn thành sớm nhất có thể để có thể gửi video đến mọi người. Mong rằng mọi người sẽ thích video hôm nay và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn. Video thì mang nhiều yếu tố hơi giật gân một tí, nhưng mà mình muốn diễn tả sâu sắc nhất cái tâm trạng của nhân vật đến với mọi người. Hy vọng là mọi người sẽ thích, và do câu chuyện là hư cấu nên là hình ảnh nó không được khớp cho lắm. Mong rằng mọi người sẽ thông cảm và ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn nữa. Hãy đón xem những video tiếp theo trên kênh mình nha. Tạm biệt mọi người.